All right, for this video, we're going to be using the PowerPoint notes again, which are found in the Google Classroom or on our agenda page. And we're going to get into our first definitions. First video is all about an introduction. Now we're going to talk about what these words actually mean. So, going to be about 6 different words here. And we've seen a lot of these before: population, sample, statistic, variable, and data. Pretty straightforward. It's a few new ones, possibly. So population is our overall large scope picture of what we're looking at. Collection of people, things, objects, whatever we're going to study, whatever that full big picture is. We're going to be using one example for this. So our example is going to be here. We want to know the average mean amount of money first year college students spend at San Jacinto College on school supplies that do not include books. And we randomly survey 100 first-year students at the college. 3 of those students spend $150, $200, $225. So population is the overall big picture of what we're studying. So we want to know the average amount of money first-year college student spends, and the population is just all first-year students attending SJC. So pretty straightforward. And our next topic is our next word is sample. And samples are a subset from our larger population. Generally, it's obviously really hard to study a full population, so we tend to look at samples, so smaller groups from the bigger population, a subset. And our next video is going to be talking about how to determine the sample. Do you pick all the same you pick the same class? Do you pick one from each class? Do you pick one from each activity? So how you pick your sample is really important. And we see that in polls, like political polls. If they only take one sample from one part of the country, thinking of like the LA Times poll, that has a specific bias to it because those people are only polled from one very specific part, even within Los Angeles. So samples, smaller groups. So here, the sample it would be all the student. It could be all the students enrolled in one section of a beginner statistics course. So there's the 100 people they're picking. They don't say where they're picking them from, so it's just going. The sample is going to be those 100 people. So they say randomly survey 100. So one way could be picking everybody from a beginner stats course. Lots of different ways, but you get the point. A smaller group from the bigger picture. The next 2 words are a little bit tricky, probably definitely the hardest ones in this section. So a parameter is a number that's a property of the population. Because it takes a lot of time and money to examine the whole population, sampling is a very practical technique. So here we go, our same example again. And so the parameter is a number that's the property of our population, so our overall population. So here the parameter is the average amount of money spent by first-year college students at SJC this term. So it's it's the whole population, and it's what we're trying to figure out from that whole population. And statistic is very similar to parameter, but it's just a little slightly different. So statistic is a number that represents property of the sample. So here it's different than the parameter. Parameter was property of the population. This is a property of the sample. So if we consider one math class to be a sample of the population, then the average number of points earned by students in that one math class at the end of the term is an example of a statistic. So in our SJC average amount of money spent, the statistic is the average amount of money spent by first-year students in the sample. So it's what our data told us, and that's the statistic we get. And so it's important to remember that statistic is looking at just what you learned from the sample. Variables. So a variable given by letters X, Y, and Z, or whatever else we want. It's a characteristic of interest for just one person in the population. So back to our SJC average amount of money spent example. The variable could be the amount of money spent by one first-year student And we could let X represent that person, and maybe let Y represent another person, and so on. So variable, just that one person. And these could be numerical or categorical, which just would represent something down here. An explanation maybe, or words, not numeric. It's just the opposite of what numbers would be. So Republican, Democrat, Independent, something like that too. And data are just the actual values of the variable. Data, fun fact, is a single value. So down here, the data would be just the physical numbers, 150, 200, and 225. If you need to go back and review any of that, please, go back, review, read those, re-listen to it, and or reread it in the textbook. So here's our example, and this example is also in the textbook. So if you, I'm going to try to stick really closely to the textbook. So, all right, we need to pair these up. So this example is talking about a study that was conducted at a local college to analyze the average cumulative GPAs of students who graduated last year. Fill the letters of the phrase that best describe each of the items listed below. So, all right, we're looking at a local college, and we're trying to find the average cumulative GPA of students who graduated just last year. Okay, so our population. So as we look through these, and I will encourage you to pause this and try it on your own as well. So let's see what our options. All students who attended the college last year. Population, we're looking for the overall big thing. No. Oh, I see numbers. That must be the data one. A group of students. Oh, that's just a group of students. Okay. So all students who graduated. So let's see. If we read this closely, it says we're looking for the cumulative GPAs of students who graduated last year. So here are the people who attended. Here are the people who graduated. Oh, so number one would go to F, because we're looking for all students who graduated from college the last year. So one would be F. Okay, statistic is next. And remember, statistics, parameter, those are kind of the tricky ones. So let's go back to our definition of statistic. It's a number that represents the property or a property of the sample. So, cumulative GPA of one student who graduated from the college last year. Okay. So that seems good, but this was a study conducted on a group of students who graduated. So, that's from the whole college. Let's see if there's one more specifically that will talk about the group of students. Group of students who graduated from the college last year, randomly selected. Okay, that's good, but it doesn't talk about the GPAs. The average cumulative GPA of students who graduated from the college last year. Okay, well, that's what we're trying to figure out. Well, this one here, the average on the bottom, the average cumulative GPA, good, of students in the study who graduated from the college last year. And this is our correct one. So it's kind of weird. B, E, and G all seem so very similar. But G is our official answer for statistic because it's in the study. So I know it's a bit tricky there, but you just need to be careful with those definitions. Luckily we can go back and reread the definitions as we need to. Parameter is next. Our parameter is a number that is a property of the population. So population is looking at the overall big picture. And our big picture is our local college. So cumulative GPA of one student. Nope, we want big picture, not one student. Average cumulative GPA of students who graduated from the college last year, and that is the parameter. So that's looking at the overall big picture. So 3 parameter goes with E. All right, sample. The next ones are more straightforward. Sample is our smaller group from the whole population, and that would be letter D. It's a group of students who graduated from the college last year. And then variable, remember, we go back to variable. This was the letter that represents each individual person, so one person. And if we go here, that would go with B. We read that one a few times, cumulative GPA of one student. So there we go. 5 would be B. And then data is the easiest of all. And that's just the singular, or that's just the physical, numerical, or categorical numbers or expression, what we're representing. So we're looking for the numbers. So here's some example GPAs. So 6 would go with letter C. All right. So these are our first vocab words. So hopefully that makes sense. Please ask questions if it doesn't, and go back and reread those definitions. Be careful on statistic and parameter. Those are pretty tricky there. Remember, statistic deals with just your, in your study, parameter deals with your whole population. And our homework is on in the textbook. And instead of writing this out paper and pencil style, I made a Google form for us. And you can follow that link there. Hopefully that you can just copy that in. I'll also post it here in our Google agenda sheet, but it's going to be pretty straightforward how it looks for this first one because it's just vocabulary. So I just have multiple choice questions. It's going through each problem. So you do have to use the book, go to page 52, and you do need to read question 42. So it's going to be a bit of reading. You can use the online book or the physical book. I think the physical book is easier. And then you just select your answers there. And yeah, I don't think it'll be too bad. And there we go. That's our first section on vocabulary. And the next section we're going to talk about is sampling and how to make those samples. So, all right, I'll stop here and good luck.